So what I would like to do is start in the order this is automatically on sheet. Sorry. So Sadie would go first. Says
Seth.
Seth. Well, I'm just gonna put in parentheses SETH because that's my only shot at getting pronouncing it right.
It's just like that, but with an F instead of a TH, so.
Thank you. Liam, and then Lydia. So I'm gonna sit down and I assume that you all will come up here and individually. Are there any questions first? Excellent. Oh, yeah,
Are we allowed to time ourselves for the presentation?
I'm gonna time it for you.
Okay, will you cut us off or?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a really good question. Thank you. I will let you finish your sentence because that's only fair. But we are trying to, there are very few times that we get a lot of time to really make an incredibly important point to colleagues. And this practice of being reductive so that you don't go on for 3 minutes makes you more powerful, I think, in getting people's attention. So I will. This is very interesting. I have a new phone and it gives me 59 seconds, but isn't interested in doing any better. So I guess I'll put in a minute and 59 seconds, knowing that you'll be allowed that extra second, okay? All right. So, Sadie, would you like to come up? You have no choice, but. And let me know when you want to start.
I'll start right now. Colleagues, I'm hearing many wonderful financial and legal implications being raised about the fentanyl crisis, but I'm not hearing enough ethical considerations being raised. See, the fentanyl crisis in North America, specifically on university campuses, has a potential for immense harm, and any issue that deals with harm should be immediately flagged and treated as an ethical issue at its core. Imagine with me for a moment that we're not at Pfizer, but back in university. There's a big meeting, lots of people in the room. Perhaps one of us got nervous and slipped a counterfeit Xanax in order to calm our nerves. If that pill had even a little bit of fentanyl lacing it, that person would not be alive to hear me making this statement. Yes, it's a dramatic and a imaginatory case scenario, but the thing is that this is a real potent and prevalent issue for students in North America today. The Pfizer Forward Fund combines a tough love and harm reduction approach into one ethical strategy that doesn't destigmatize drugs, but also doesn't dehumanize drug users. Pfizer prides itself on the ability to be a company that follows this foundational moral principle of doing no harm. We don't do any harm. We actually do a lot of good. But what are we doing to stop the harm of illicit, counterfeit forms of our drugs running rampant in the streets and killing our students and our future in the process? We have a moral platform, a duty to do good. And the Pfizer Forward Fund is a means through which we can achieve that end. Colleagues, I encourage you to consider the Pfizer Forward Fund. I encourage you to make a statement to our competitors, our patients, and these students that Pfizer is a company that is not indifferent to the fentanyl crisis, but one that actually is making the difference in the fentanyl crisis. Thank you.
I am going to ask for like a minute. We need to do some notes just so the next person doesn't get all tense about whether they're not followed up. Thank you. Seth.
Before I start, I tend to speak a little fast, so if you need me to like slow down, just slide the table or something.
We'll do it for you.
I think that what matters is how you choose to do this.
Okay.
And if you're talking so that none of us can understand you, you'll get that in the feedbacks.
Okay,
Feel free to do. So I am going to start when you tell me. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to start when you tell me.
okay. I would like my time to start now. LVMH board, I am here today as a representative of the employees of the firm to tell you that there are many ethical considerations going into your appointment of Frederick and Alexander Arnault to the board of directors. You must not appoint them because you are going to violate the corporate integrity of LVMH. It is founded on a policy of fostering creativity and innovation. The best case scenario for hiring these two is that you are just going to maintain the status quo, and the worst case scenario is that they are going to run the company into the ground. There are so many members of the Arnault family already on the board that this fundamentally does not change the direction the company is going in. We as the employees want innovation. We want creativity from our firm. And so we want you to seek an outside candidate so that you are not violating your integrity. If the employees have such a tangible harm from this and that we are not getting the innovation that we deserve, that we want, we are going to be harmed by you appointing Frederick and Alexander. We want a solution that leads to creativity and innovation. The firm makes a more positive societal impact by focusing on other ways that can improve the business rather than those that we have already focused on in the past. We want to take the firm in a new direction, especially since it is so dominant in the market. Thank you.
I have a question. Just to clarify, we have about 90 seconds.
Only 90 seconds.
Only 90 seconds. Okay, just confirm.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, because that was about a minute.
That was only 59 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, should I
So-
go back up and speak for 34?
No, but it just kind of, I mean, that's fine. But yes, it is 90 seconds. And I think with all direct honesty, it was 90 seconds if you had spoken slower.
That might be true.
So I think that you covered yourself.
Yeah, I covered pretty much most of the points I wanted to hit.
I just don't know why an iPhone is not kind enough to give you exactly what you've done.
Would you, do you
If
need
you-
help?
I can do 1 minute 30
The
seconds.
1 minute Saudi.
1 minute.
30 seconds.
I know, but that's like two things. I thought it was just getting 100 and, never mind.
Technology calling.
Yeah, well, you can see.
We're still
that-
working on it.
Are you looking for something like this? Are you looking for something like this?
Yeah, why don't I have that? Well, actually, I just did because of what was said, so,
Okay,
but it's 40 seconds.
Go on the.
there we go. Yeah, that should be perfect.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I am clearly the star of technology. All right. So we had two great speeches and now Liam. And something I should have asked, just give the title of what you're doing so that the people who are listening understand. Because I should have, you jumped in and it was fine, but that made me realize that people didn't know what the actual context is. So if you could just give the name of what you did,
Yeah.
that'd be great. And
So
then-
yeah, we are McDonald's and we're focusing on the teenage workforce.
Thank you. And I apologize to Sadie and Seth, but I think both of you were clear about what you were doing. So, all right. How interesting. It keeps going back to 1 minute and 50 seconds. Okay. Nothing like, making you nervous and making it, obnoxious, but I don't.
I never get nervous. I'm totally not scared at all.
Well, I think that's a wonderful quality.
I'm also a really good liar.
That is not the ethical quality. Ready?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm concerned because everyone keeps telling me that I should be focused on my development during these early teenage years. Yet I'm forced to work this low-income job just to support my family. All my peers are able to go and focus on after-school activities such as clubs, sports, and tutoring. While they are out there furthering their development, I am stuck falling behind. One of your core values is integrity, that you will always do the right thing. While you may feel that in your executive suite you are doing just that, I want to pose you a question. If your child were in my shoes, would you still feel the same? I'm tired of my future being jeopardized by the profits of your company. I just wish I was heard. I wish I had a voice. I wish I had someone that understood what I was going through. This is the integrity. I wish that you guys could care about your employees. Because I can assure you I'm not the only one. Thank you.
And Lydia.
Oh, perfect, perfect.
Can you explain your,
Yes.
I mean, just quickly now.
Oh, well, I'm gonna be talking about TikTok's responsibility in creating a generation of support our kids. And then just let me know when you're done.
You tell me, start talking and I'll hit it.
Okay. My fellow colleagues, I understand your frustration. If there's anything the past 30 minutes has led to my understanding is that we can all agree that there is some major issues going on right now with social media in our youth. Only 22%, and I mean 22% of the general public has a trust in social media companies. We are one of those companies. And as platform like ours is starting to replace third spaces across many generations, we have to realize that even the guardians on our app are experiencing a totally different version of what society influences are compared to our young users, a more vulnerable population. And you say, oh, but we've done enough, right? There is no monetization effort on our version of the app. There are no ads. What more can we do? But what did you like to say at the beginning of each meeting? You quote, with great power comes great responsibility. Let's begin to wear that with pride. We understand right now that there is a cementing of distrust. And in order to push this away, we must begin cementing credibility among ourselves, reliability among our community and the young users, and lastly, intimacies with the guardians. We currently operate on a self-interest financial incentive that prioritizes money. Our users are people with names and faces and not just hashtags. We can no longer see them as a means to an end, but rather as people that don't have the moral reasoning development yet and continue to operate on our app. Thank you.
Well, first I would say that this wasn't easy for anybody to do. I think the 92nd is very difficult. I think that what makes it so important is that each of you have power in the organizations that you're in, the classes that you're in, the power comes from speaking out and pointing out where ethics is being missed. Because that's a really, I mean, none of you did it in a obnoxious or arrogant or whatever way. And I think that's tremendously important, how you convey what you are concerned about. is really important, and it makes it easier for people to feel comfortable doing that in the ways that they feel comfortable in. So I give you great credit. So first we heard from Sadie. And what I think was particularly evident was her calmness and her voice. There's a great way to attract attention and have people listen, when in fact that's your presence. Because presence has a lot to do with how we listen. And so that's important. She was focused. The on-key points that she made were undoubtedly key issues in her own full program of 75 minutes when she was starting that. And the key is that what she chose to share contributed to ethical engagement. And that's really what we're looking for in terms of our lives of ethical engagement. And that's hard. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Because there's no one way to do this, Seth's passion and fast talking, although I don't recommend it as if you're really trying to make a significant difference in something that is not with your peers. I think that his approach was effective. There was slight anger behind, I was choosing to view your fast talking with the anger that was part of how you were trying to impact your colleagues. And that can be effective because people do things very differently. There's no one way to do it. And so I think that the capacity to hit the high notes of what it is that is the most distressing and to engage colleagues in the awareness that gets them thinking about things that maybe they have not really taken the time to do makes it a very effective way of having ethics take on a more powerful way, verbally, not more powerful. I mean, anytime anyone takes on ethics, it's definitely powerful, but there are many different ways to do it. So thank you very much. I liked a lot that Liam began with "I'm concerned." That is a great way to catch people and have them pay attention to what's going on. So that is a very, I think, I guess I keep using the word powerful, but I mean it in the context that it draws listeners to you. And that's exactly what you're trying to do. And you got integrity in there right quickly. And you used powerful language. And I think that that also is very appropriate for the 92nd. And I can't read my own handwriting here. You were very careful about the emphaticness that you were trying to address. It wasn't insulting. It wasn't demeaning. It was just straightforward information. And don't worry about not remembering things. I mean, at a time like this for any of us, when we can't lose the 9,000 times we have, memorized something, this is where the brain just stops when we're not perfect. And that makes it really difficult for all the knowledge that we have to be able to come out, because you had the right to totally shift your 90 seconds at the point where you weren't sure what the next thing was, and just talk about what you felt needed to be said, just because of all the conversations you and your team have had and everything else. So I think you did a good job. And I think it's a very difficult thing to do. And when you don't have notes, it's really hard. But that's the power of a conversation. In the speeches that I've seen where people have used notes, they're much less. Again, the word powerful, where does this go? I mean, I keep saying powerful, but it was much more of just listening to someone, not feeling anything back. And you gave a lot of feeling back. So I think that's really good. Thank you. Lydia did a very good job of talking differently than she had talked in the bigger. How many minutes was it?
25.
25.
45 minutes. And I think, again, for all of us, it's about presence and it's about how we choose the kind of tone, energy, language that is likely to resonate with people. And I think what we care about is being heard. And sometimes it's really hard to hear someone who's talking really, really fast. Yours, because of how you did it, there might still be people who said, you know, who would say, listening, geez, what did he say? Because it was too fast for them. And that's a concern. But I think that what you did was moderate your passion, which was clearly evident. And you didn't create any ambiguity about what you were really trying to get at. And you were very focused with it. And the expression on your face and your body energy wasn't necessarily the negative frustration. It was somebody who wants to make something happen and wants to be clear about that. And when that type of demeanor and presence happens, I think what you get is you get listened to, and you also get people thinking about it because it was very serious. So I think you did a great job as well.
Thank you.
Is there are a gazillion ways to make a connection when you're talking about ethics. And it's very easy to read your crowd, and you didn't have a crowd to read, so you had to make up a crowd that you were going to be talking to. But one of the benefits of this for those who have done it is to really be thinking about the kinds of things they want to talk about to the people that they need to talk to. And it's not just how we come up with what we think is important. It's also thinking about how will the people who I'm talking to be able to be open to that, or to be able to respond to that. And so that's part of this exercise. It's much more than it, actually seems. Anybody have any questions? So let me ask you, how would you respond to a situation in which someone was being a jerk and you knew that there were other people in the room who might feel really uncomfortable because that person was saying something that they could easily think was about them, and that would be diminishing and whatever. So there's no one strategy, but give me some ideas about how you would handle a situation like that. This isn't a test, just talk.
Well, I think you were talking about conveying certain things and how it matters what your message is, but also how you say it. And so if this was a situation where you felt the need to address the things that this person was saying, I think there's a way to do it that doesn't, I like what Sadie says, doesn't dehumanize anyone. Even the person who's saying these things, but there is a way, I don't know what the actual like verbal technique is, but I think in that situation, you need to be thinking about ways you can acknowledge maybe those people who feel diminished.
And what might you say?
I don't know, I'm just,
Okay. Anybody, I mean, you can keep talking, but I would love some additional examples of how would you do something like that when you think somebody has been undermined or minimized or whatever, and the person who said it has no idea?
I think it's important to kind of take a moment to ask for a reset. So one strategy that our advisor always employs is, what did you hear me say? Because sometimes you might have said something, but what they heard you say is totally different than what you're trying to get across. And so for taking a moment, for example, if Andrew and I were in a conversation and she felt attacked, I would say, well, I recognize the current emotions that you're currently, the passion that you're saying in your statement. However, let's just take a little step back and actually reset. So what exactly did you hear me say, Ange? And then that would be given an opportunity for Ange to say that your words made me feel this and this and that. And then I would give you an opportunity to clarify and say, well, when I was talking about, for example, the outside stakeholders and you not prioritizing their mental health, let's define what I really meant by mental health in the situation. And then this also gives me an opportunity to invite Ange to give her definition of what she thought mental health may have been. Because I think one of the flaws is that we always operate from a moment where we think everybody has the same understanding and they have the same like cultural context, and that might not be the same issue. So instead of looking at that as some sort of barrier, you kind of have to shift and actually expand that conversation to allow them to be able to come in and also give their own perspective. Because oftentimes, if they don't have that chance and they leave feeling like they were never actually heard at all, and that does more harm than good. So asking for a reset and additional definition can help rearrange the aura of the room.
I think that's great. Say that someone, a boss or someone has inadvertently, probably not intentionally, said something to a team, and you are someone who knows how hard certain people have been working. You know that one of them is got a dying parent, or whatever the usual stuff is of what life sometimes gives us and bad things. And it's a professional situation, and you know that somebody's really being hurt. How would you respond to that? Because there's an ethical issue here about deminimizing, and there's an ethical issue about insensitivity and unkindness. And there's also power. And I'm not suggesting there's one easy suggestion. I'm just wanting to get you thinking about the numbers of ways that you can be more powerful in achieving a better outcome in a situation. Because power can be perceived as control. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our personal power, our energy, our ability to have some things really matter. So what would you do in a situation like that? When you know that somebody is a hierarchy type person, would you do something immediately? Would you keep quiet? Would you talk to the boss? Would you talk to the person who was undermined? There's no one answer, but I just want to get you thinking about that. So throw out anything.
I can hop in here again. I think that first we need to be able to take a look into the culture of the company that I'm working for. and if the culture actually empowers me as an employee to be able to voice my value. So for example, if I were working in a company that doesn't necessarily allow for confrontation, but always prioritizes hierarchy, then I would be looking at that very moment to talk about what our shared value is and our shared goal. And then we can instead in that moment really recognize that we understand that we all had this major goal of doing this, but in order to make sure this goal is working, we have to be able to ensure that we're maximizing the efforts of other people. And so saying that we have this bigger goal. Let's say we did not meet this goal, but we're on our way there. We have to recognize that the small wins are very important. And doing so, we need people. And if in these ways we are beginning to sacrifice our people for this goal, then that goal is not meant to be something that's worthwhile. And that's something we have to recognize. Now, if I were in a company where the company culture actually was very different and invited a more conversation era, kind of a conversational type of like energy, I think that, you know, something that we do at our schools, like we set like rules of the meetings where it's like, if certain things are starting to borderline an issue, it's a flag on the play. Like you should not be going out of your way to really bring in things that might dehumanize another person, because at the end of the day, people are the person that get the work done and people have their own values. So recognizing that, hey, you know, like, Aunt, I recognize that you've been really working hard for this mission and you're feeling that, you know, Grace is not just giving like as much as she possibly is, but I want you to think about it from the experience of Grace. She just started working at this company. She's trying something new.
Right.
This is an opportunity for you to probably mentor Grace. And then maybe you can also learn something from Grace as well. So something.
Does anyone have any other examples of something that allows ethics to be much more in the front row of your thinking when things happen? Any ideas about that?
One of the examples that the professors at my university, I'm sure you've heard it before, say when you're trying to make a decision, if you should do the ethical thing, or it's one of those things, when a tree falls in the forest, no one's around to hear it, you know, did it make a noise kind of thing. They say the front page test of the newspaper. And if this decision is something you'd be comfortable seeing on the front page of your newspaper, go for it. But if it's something that you wouldn't want people to know about, it probably isn't the right thing to do. And it probably isn't the most ethical thing to do. And so it's a very obvious way to think about it, but it does get you thinking sometimes.
It's a very good example. Before we leave, I'd like you to consider, we had 4 talented subjects. Is there feedback that you can give that you thought of to Sadie or Seth or Liam or Lydia? Is there anything you particularly thought in what they did that you thought was really interesting, that you might want to try yourself? Or just something that you appreciated? You did work hard on this, you realize.
I really appreciated Lydia's like body, like you could feel the energy, and it wasn't, because yeah, you can do a stiff like I'm important, like this is what I'm conveying, but she felt like it was a conversation rather than like I'm here to talk about one thing. Like her body language really was inviting, and it made you want to look at her and understand what she's saying. So I really appreciate your body language.
Anybody else have any thoughts about any of their colleagues or people you didn't know, you just listened to? Yes.
I thought Seth did a great job with his presentation. I could feel that he was very passionate about the subject. And even though it was only 90 seconds, I could tell that a lot of research went into it, and it was a topic that they've delved really deep into, even though we only sort of saw a broad 90-second view of it. But just the confidence that he spoke with and the passion that he spoke with, it was extremely evident that they had done a lot of background work.
Yes.
I think, is it Liam?
Yes.
It was super interesting how you came to it from the like perspective of being like an employee who is affected, like probably the biggest stakeholder in your issue, the teenage like labor. So I thought it was really interesting how you were like, I feel like in all the other examples, it was like, these are the people you are affecting and you're not one of them, but like really putting yourself in the shoes of like the stakeholder that is the most affected. And it was cool like hearing from that perspective.
I really like enjoyed the way that you carried like your energy with confidence, that the calmness stuff, like in my feedback at that 25-minute was literally like, Lydia, like you are like speeding and like you need to like relax. And it was like such a different energy because I didn't feel anxious like listening to what you had to say. It was more of like, here's like A to B, I want to know where she's going to see. Like there was always something more to look for with like your next sentence. And I think that that's such a difficult thing to carry when you have such a calm energy because people can easily be like, where is she going? But it's like, you were like, well, I said this, but there's more to look for. I think that was a very like confident that you did with that one.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Also, ma'am, I have been in like a situation where I forget and I commemorate you for actually not quitting. Because sometimes when you get that brain fog, it's like, I'm over, like might as well just stand here.
Yeah.
But you at least finished and concluded what you're talking about instead of just like, well, I messed up, let me go stop. So yeah, great job.
And I think that's really important for all of us to realize that there's nothing perfect, but there is something that drives and motivates us to say what we feel we need to say. And the knowledge that we can't say it perfectly, I mean, there's good and bad in memorizing. Because heaven help you if you can't think of the next sentence. So there's lots of, I mean, our lives are filled with times when we need to have things really planned and be able to say what we need to say and do it right in that right moment. And I've been an advanced Toastmaster for probably 10 years. And I've been noticing that when I rehearse speech, or when I give a speech to an organization, I'm very careful, or try to be careful about the fact that I'm trying to remember the concepts. I can't convince myself that I'm going to remember the specific language. But if you know exactly where your 4 points are, then there's something that you can do to be that much more effective when you're trying to have a difficult conversation that involves ethics, or any conversation actually, but the subject is ethics. So there's so many ways in which we can have an impact on the world, on ourselves, on others. And the beauty of IBECC, I think, is that it isn't just what you learned in a classroom about what ethics is. It's about also how you use that knowledge and build off it, relaying it to companies or organizations, and also thinking about the kind of spokesperson you could be for something that you wouldn't ordinarily think of because it's not going to be perfect. But just saying 10 words sometimes can get somebody thinking about how to do things differently. We are almost out of time. I'm just wondering if anybody has any other questions. And yes.
This is related to the ceremony at 4:30. I was just wondering where that would be.
Oh, and you think that because I'm an Uber judge, I would know?
I was wondering if you did, but if you don't, that's okay.
No, I think what will happen is that we will stop at the table
Okay.
and we will ask them. Because obviously we don't know. It needs to be a big area, and I think there is a big area, but I haven't asked any questions.
Sure.
Because it wasn't ethical. It wasn't about ethics, so I didn't need to. Thank you all very much. This is your last IBECC.
Mine?
This is your last IBECC moment today, having finished the brief, correct?
Yeah.
So congratulations. It's not easy. I feel terrific about that. It's great to see you all, and I'll see you at 4, I guess, when it starts. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.